Will you tell me your name, your date of birth, and where you were born?
Fannie Mullins Speights. Should have put Davis. And where I was born, Lawrence County. And date of birth, 2735.
What did your parents do for a living?
Well, when I was a youngster, they were farmers. And my mother was a garment factory worker. And then later on in life, my dad was a carpenter. And my mom, that's the only thing she ever did do. But, and then he got into politics. And he was chief of police for many years, and then he was justice of peace. And then he was sheriff of Lawrence County. And that ended his working career.
How was religion part of your home?
Very strong. Always very, very strong. We were brought up to, we had two churches in our little town of Oakville, and my dad was brought up as a Baptist, my mom a Methodist, and we went to two services each morning, two services every night. They had them at different times, and we attended both churches for years.
Can you tell me about the house that you grew up in?
It was a decent home. It was a wooden painted house, and for the first few years I don't really remember too much about not having electricity. I think we did have electricity, and I know my older siblings would know that probably did not have indoor, facilities, but it was a very modest home. It was just a farmer's home back then, but I never felt like anything was wrong with it, and I don't today, and don't begrudge one moment of that. So we learned from that.
What were some of the things your family did together?
We had a most happy home, and we worked together. We played together. We fished together. We cooked together and just played games. I mean, we did not have games as of today. We had outside games, hopscotch and horseshoe and all that, but we always had a very happy home.
What foods do you remember from your childhood?
Whatever was in the season that farmers had. If it was, the spring you had your mashed potato and English peas, things like that. Then a little later on came like squash, green beans, mashed potatoes, thing. And then later on came the peas, corn, okra, just all the good things. And whatever was in season is what we ate. My dad would kill beef. Then, like I say, they didn't have freezers then. My mom would can it in jars. He would raise chickens. She would cook them and can them in jars. And my dad, when he would leave home with a fishing pole over his shoulder, we were going to have meat to go with those vegetables. And if he had a gun, went to the woods with it, we were going to have meat to go with those vegetables too. We had wonderful, wonderful food that a lot of young folks probably wouldn't consider that, but it was then and it is now.
What did your family do on Christmas?
Well, we always had a Christmas tree, always. everyone, back then, all of us children would put a garment that belonged to us under the tree. And all of our stuff would be put on each thing. And back then, we were not just filled with fruit every day or anything. We would really get very upset with the other one if someone got our apple or orange or something, which now we would gladly give them, but you know, they were scarce back then. And the girls always got a doll. And the boys always got some type truck or a little farm piece of equipment or something like that. And little things, and candy, always candy. But that was it. And we were very happy with what we got.
What would you like to say about the community of Oakville that you grew up in?
That is God's little acre. It is a wonderful, wonderful community to raise a family. They care about one another. They will stand by you. And I love it dearly. Just love it dearly. And try to go for any occasion they have that I possibly can. And they make you feel so welcome. I recently attended a funeral for a long-time person that had lived there. And I just sit in amazement just to see how welcome they made everyone feel, and how they went out of their way to have such wonderful food for that whole. They didn't just say family; they invited everyone at the funeral to come and partake of that food, and it was great. It was like hometown, so it was great.
What was going to town like for you growing up?
Start out in my young years, we didn't go to town much. Oakville had little stores and things. That was where we purchased a few things that we didn't grow. But like Monticello seemed like an eternity, or Columbia. And we didn't go really. We went to, I guess our going would be on the school bus, going to ball games and going to things to go out of town or anything. But we had our own little movie theater and little store, and we didn't really have to. And we didn't miss it. But I had, before my dad got an automobile, we had an uncle that would come get us, and we would all ride the back of the truck and go to our grannies and, spend the day. And we didn't have it, but we didn't miss anything.
Tell me about what school was like for you.
Wonderful. I went to Oakville, and up until the 11th grade, I believe, or 10th, 11th. Okay. They were determined to do away with our school. Nowadays, it's a sin if you cross the state county line for a kid to go to another school. They sent us to Prentice. We felt very much out of place in Prentice. But they brought us back and decided to have school one more year, after that. And that was going to be the last year that Oakville was there, which I was able to graduate there. But it was the newest school in the whole county. Beautiful school. And the teachers and the lunchroom people were so kind and so nice. It just broke everybody's heart. It really did. But that is where I met one of my best friends in the world in the first grade, and she still is. And I have those friends from first grade on that we grew up in Oakville.
What did you do after finishing school?
I married. And my husband was drafted into the Korean War. And I went to, they had the college open out here at Brookhaven. What's that? It's still there. No, Whitworth? Whitworth. And I went to Colin and taken some special courses, but I went to Whitworth College at that time and got several courses in. I never graduated with a degree from, but I would go take special courses, and but that was the extent of that.
And then you want to talk about your flower shop?
Yeah, but I also would like to tell you about 25 years. I worked at Piggly Wiggly. That was the grandest, best 25 years. It was like a huge family. I had Mr. Frank Stamps for the first 2 years. He sold it to, and I never dreamed about working there. He came to my home and asked me, more or less begged me, to come to work for him. And I said, why in the world would you choose me? Of all people, why did you choose me? He said, we had a meeting and we all chose you. He said, we watch you every time you come in to buy grocery, how you treat your children, how patient and kind you are. And said, we want you in our force. I worked with him 2 years and he sold it to Frank Malter. And once you worked with him, there was no leaving. You could not ever leave. He was the best, kindest, too good employer in the world. I mean, and I'm not the only one that says that. The 25 that worked there 25 years will tell you the same thing. It's just like one big family. And he was just the nicest, and still is today. But that was 25 wonderful years of my life. But he sold the store. It was necessary. Due to circumstances he could not help, and so I had to put my aunt in the nursing home, and that lived next to me. And the flower shop across from the nursing home was available at that time. So I said, well, you know, I would like to go into the flower shop and be near her. She can look out here and she can see me. And that's why I chose to do that. Had no training, did go for training after I got it, and been there 30 years this July, and I've enjoyed every minute. I get to be with people when they're happy, and I get to be with the people that are so sad. And I just try to be there when they need me and to be a comfort to them if I possibly can. And they're just wonderful people. We have wonderful people that they have stood by me, baby, for 30 years and kept me in business.
What was it like raising kids in Lawrence County?
Baby, I have 2 boys, 8 years apart. I could look at my children every day and I'd say, how in the world did the good Lord ever bless me with that? They were the most precious thing on this earth to me and to my husband. And they still are. But I couldn't ever would have never allowed my child to be mistreated. Thank you, Jesus, I did not marry a man that would do that, but it would have been a short-lived marriage if I had. But he felt the same way. There are ways for children to respect you and mine without you being just hollering at them, and you certainly don't have to beat them. You don't need. I did keep a fly swat on the top of the refrigerator And I threatened them several times, but I never had to use it. But that was the happiest days of my life. Until my grandchildren come along, and now there's no difference. They are just as precious, and have 2 grandsons, and both just got married in September. They're grown finally, 35 and 31, but they were late to marry. But honey, they're the greatest things on earth God could ever give anybody. And I hope one day you get to know the feeling.
Tell me about some of the most memorable places in Lawrence County over your lifetime.
In Lawrence County? Well, let's see. Well, my children were always just very active in all activities, in athletic period, you know. And I enjoyed going to every aspect of that, everything that they had, anything they were in. But now, and I've always attended all the galas at the Civic Center, and I've always tried to be a great part of Lawrence County and enjoy everything about it. And I've never really had a bad experience.
How would you say Lawrence County has changed since you were young?
For the better. For the better.
What do you miss about the past?
Well, my husband. And I was lucky enough to have a second husband. And he was just as precious as the first. Just very kind, gentle, and just, you couldn't ask for anyone in the world to treat me and my children any better. And the first one was totally different in that we were involved with the children every minute. Everything we did or breathed was the kids. Everywhere we went, the children had to be able to attend also. And we just absorbed our life with our children. But the second one, the kids were all grown and gone after my first husband died. And we traveled everywhere. But I had traveled always. But we traveled together. I carried him to Pearl Harbor. He wanted to see that so bad. And we just had wonderful, wonderful trips everywhere. And I enjoyed life, and I still do.
Do you remember your first contact with a television set or a personal computer?
I certainly do the television set. I don't think we had a TV until we had a child. And while we thought it was necessary to get a TV because we had a child, but it was just a wonderful thing to have. And we bought one, our first one at Western Auto, on installments. And we've had one ever since. But that was a great thing. But getting back to latter years, we had radios. And my mom and dad, we never missed a Grand Ole Opry. When it come on Saturday night, we got ready for it. We had popcorn, we did everything. And that was wonderful times with a radio. But now when the TV come along, that was something different. But we already had our first child at that time. I never bought one till he come home service. And we had several other things we had to do then. Then we got a TV. And I love my TV.
And last question, Aunt Fannie. What would you say is your best piece of advice that you could tell future Lawrence Countyans who can watch this 20 years from now, or even me?
Be available, be willing to step up and do anything that make this a better, safer place for our young folks, our elderly folks, and for everyone. I mean, it's a wonderful place to raise a family, and I still think that we have the best to come. I haven't given up on it. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it.